right, then, welcome back, everybody. We are on another episode of The Report Card. It is Zay,
And Christina.
and we are here to give you guys another installment. Black Phone 2, that's the movie that we saw last night. It is from Blumhouse. Oh, man. So, first off, let's just say how we felt about the first Black Phone. Came out years ago, saw too many advertisements for it, got annoyed with the advertisements time and time again, and it turned out being the most surprising. It turned out to be the most surprising, not just horror movie we saw that year, but the most surprising movie we saw that year. And we both kind of finished watching it thinking, great, this is a good one-off. You don't really need to make another one of these. The Grabber seems like an interesting, horror villain. Love the mask, love the actual look of the mask and everything. Ethan Hawke did a great job, and Mason Thames did a great job too. But now we have a second one, and going into it, we did hear some rumbling, some up and downs with the actual film itself. But we are going to give you our opinion of Black Phone 2. So we can go ahead and start off with the. Let me go ahead and give you a quick synopsis of it. So, bad dreams haunt 15-year-old Gwen as she receives calls from the Black Phone and sees disturbing visions of three boys being stalked at a winter camp. Accompanied by her brother Finn, they head to the camp to solve the mystery, only to confront the Grabber, a killer who's grown even more powerful in death. Spoilers for the first Black Phone movie. If you haven't seen it, please just go see the first Black Phone movie. Then come
spoilers.
back.
Go watch both of them and then
go watch both of them. Then come here. But if you really don't know the first one, the Grabber is dead. He had Mason Thames' character Finn kidnapped in there. Would kidnap the kids and then eventually end up taking their lives. And then those kids whose lives were taken, they would end up calling back in through the afterlife to help Finn, the current person who was
and free their
kidnapped.
souls.
And free their souls. So return those souls back and make sure this doesn't happen again. Finn actually ended up killing the Grabber. Never forget, step back, wind back, swing. We'll get more into that later. And then the Grabber was actually done. So like we said, a sequel has been made. We have watched the sequel. So let's go ahead and first talk about the plot and storyline because
just to add on to the first one, Gwen, his little sister, is the one who even found him in the first place because she had a vision that someone else is shared with her.
Exactly.
Which will be explained in the second one.
Exactly. So here we are. So let's just go ahead. We gave you guys a quick synopsis of it. Oh, and before we go into the plot and storyline, of course, if you guys enjoy these, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the Zay's Walk channel, as we will be giving you guys plenty of horror and blockbuster movies coming out. Our report cards and reviews of them. All right, finally, let's get into the plot and the storyline. What did we think about this one? Because going into it, we didn't really know. We only saw some things from the trailer. We saw her spinning in the air from the trailer. We saw her getting thrown around in the refrigerator from the trailer. But plot and storyline in the kitchen. But what did we think about the plot and the storyline in terms of what it was trying to tell us throughout the film? What are your thoughts?
The storyline, the plot was good. The storyline could have been a little better. Okay. Or maybe even vice versa. Maybe it was plot. There was a lot of Deus Ex Machina being explained, like whenever they get to the camp and things like that.
Yes.
So obviously we get here because Gwen has a vision of these three young adolescent boys being murdered in gruesome ways, which they did show.
They did show it.
Just to a certain extent. There's one death that couldn't show because he was axed in the head.
Yeah.
So,
but they showed another version. They showed another way of it that I thought was, in my opinion, one of the better. Like that was, there were moments we were in the theater going, oh man, like we were like, damn, that's pretty brutal.
I was just like, because every time they kill kids, I'm like, oh, like they actually they want to scare you. That's ultimately how I feel going into those movies because I'm just like, most of the times they never will, or those kind of like insinuated or fade out, literally. But ultimately, when it comes to the plot and storyline, like I said, there wasn't a lot of Deus Ex Machina in terms of explaining stuff, and then kind of the whole whirlwind of it coming back to him being at the first place where he started, that is what made it a little cheeky to me, a little goofy, because I'm just thinking, this was really good. I like the family dynamic of it, how we got here. The other girl who shares the power with Gwen is her mom, which is where she gets it from, and she looks at it as a curse. Everyone's calling her witch. Obviously, it's back in the 80s, so this is not, a good look for her to have, and like I said, people are calling her witch.
Exactly.
And then Finn, is always having phone calls, or he can always hear. He always hears phones from people in the afterlife trying to be saved.
But now he's telling them on the other end, "I'm sorry,
I can't help
I
you.
can't help you." And Finn, I think that I'll say this with the plot. I do like what they did by kind of telling us from the beginning the actions of the first film weigh heavy on the family in the second.
Yeah.
Like from the beginning, I do like that Finn is already beating up a new classmate in school because the classmate was messing with them with the whole grabber stuff, kind of making fun of him, and Finn just wails into him. And you can tell from the beginning he has the trauma of what he's experienced has morphed itself into anger, and we'll get into the let out of the anger later on. But I do like how it's introduced. And then, of course, Gwen, she's sleepwalking and having these dreams.
Very vivid, surreal
Very
dreams.
vivid, surreal dreams. And there's some good editing in there, too. But I think for story and plot line-wise, it works well at telling you, showing the effects of such a traumatic event that can happen to these kids, being kidnapped, having to find the other kids' bodies in your town, and then also
The loss of their mom.
and also the loss of the mom. And I do like how we opened up with the mom and then getting the other side of it later. I do feel like we kind of did that too much.
Yeah.
I feel like when they did it the third time, like
With
when
her,
she
yeah.
I was like, okay, we're kind of eating up some storyline here. But essentially, what leads them to even getting to the camp is the fact that the mother was a counselor in training at this camp back in the 50s in Colorado. And at that camp, what's his name? Wild Bill. We'll just call him the Grabber. Honestly, we'll just call him the Grabber. The Grabber, the actual real person of the Grabber, was a counselor at that camp. And as we learned in the first one, he was already being abused by his father. And so now that he was at this camp, you know, he used that power dynamic he has over the counselors in training and ended up. These were his first kills. These were essentially,
and that's a
three little
conclusion we
boys were
just
his
made.
first kills.
That's just a conclusion we made from the first one
Yeah.
because he kept talking so heavily to Finn about like what his dad did and things
Mm-hmm.
like that. So that's where we're kind of insinuating, okay, probably from what trauma he was dealing with at home, he carried it on into obviously adolescence and clearly into adulthood
Yes.
of having that control and like, you know, and he always is doing it to younger boys like himself. So I feel he just likes having that dynamic so that obviously
Mm-hmm.
over it he won't feel like maybe his dad controls him. And
Yeah, and it could be something like that. I do want to say this with the plot. There were moments looking back now that getting them to the camp could have been done a little bit, I don't know, could have been done with a little bit more seriousness. It definitely seemed like this is kind of like Gwen's movie. Like this is Gwen's going
Gwen
through
and
the
her mom,
traumatic
Gwen
stuff.
and Hope.
Yeah, of course her mom's already been through it in the past, but this is really Gwen's movie of her going through the traumatic stuff. So since she has these dreams of the Grabber or of these little boys who are asking her to save them, and they are at the camp, and then she realizes that it's her mom that's at the camp. She has a flyer from the Camp Pinewood or Camp Alpine. She then presents this to Finn, saying, "Hey, you know, you need to make money anyway, so you know, like let's just go to this camp, and then we can also find out where these boys are, and we can find out a way to save them." And Finn's not dealing with it, which once again I do like. Finn is definitely Finn's been smoking on that Mary Jane to numb himself from the fact that he still sees the Grabber. Like even when he's just going outside to smoke something, he still sees the Grabber just looking at him and trying to still scare him, which is traumatic. It has been 3 years since the events of the first film. So that tells you that even years later, it's still affecting him. Mm-hmm. But he's pushing everything away. He doesn't want to deal with it. He doesn't want to talk about it because he thinks about it every day. So even the thought of, or even the idea of his sister saying, we should go there, he's like, no, whatever. But then the dad's like, oh, you know, if you want to, you know, go there, I'm not with all that religious stuff because Camp Alpine is a Christian camp. Mm-hmm. So he's like, I'm not really dealing with that. And it's a camp that he wasn't with their mother when she was there. This is after that they knew each other. And we do get reveals about the mother later. But anyways, it's how they get there. I felt like that could have been executed probably just a little bit better. But when they do make it to the camp, that's when the actual movie starts to pick up and we're introduced to some more people. But I would say for the plot and the story of what were doing. This is
No, her dreams were probably already getting it started. To
like
be
the
honest.
catalyst of it, like the little clues. That's
I
the
remember, like,
clues.
yeah, like the blood on her sock, and that was, like that's
Oh yeah.
like
Yeah,
that was already like, dang girl.
because she actually is feeling, she's
What's
feeling and
happening? Yeah,
experiencing what's
she's
in there.
experiencing. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the boys, there's 3 boys, and each time the death is revealed, they end up carving a letter into the ice, and then it
Which is inevitably the killer's
real name. Yeah, real name Wild Bill Hansen or something of that nature. But Wild Bill, or the Grabber is we're just gonna call him. But essentially, that's like a quick recap of it. Oh yeah, and then there's a new character that we're introduced who is Ernesto, who actually has a liking to Gwen.
Yeah.
Can you speak about Ernesto a little bit in
Yeah.
terms of how he was introduced?
Well,
and everything like that?
Ernesto was, shooting his shot at Gwen. Honestly, he was just trying to ask Gwen out on a date, and then she did inevitably say yes,
To see
And of
Duran
course,
Duran,
Finn,
yeah.
and then Finn was, kind of teasing her for it, and then he ended up actually. Gwen has obviously been telling Ernesto, the things that she's been experiencing, and he finds it interesting because he said that's what my abuelita literally does, his grandma. So, in terms of all because we might call it witchcraft, but the tarot card readings, her having these visions and her being able to see it, and also I feel like Ernesto has probably a liking to her because of your brother, we were able to catch the man who killed my brother. Literally, if it wasn't for your brother, I mean, yeah, I lost my brother, but it's at least we know now, that man who did that, I don't have to worry anymore and stuff like that. So that wasn't really I'm happy they didn't use it as a focal point, but Ernesto has a liking to Gwen, and he is going to be their ride over to this camp because he's going to help. But then obviously Gwen had already told Finn, Ernesto's taking me, but Finn didn't really like that because he was saying, that's not yours to tell, that I see him or I see these phone calls, and they both, it's funny at the beginning, Finn and Gwen go back and forth about them talking about their powers. It's they both don't like it because it's it feels as though it's traumatic. It feels crazy. It's and
her specifically because of how their mother died, or how we think she died. In terms of Finn, he's suppressing it all, and he doesn't have any friends. He doesn't really have anyone to speak to, and he doesn't want to hear about Gwen's dreams because clearly that makes him still think about the fact of what's happened to them. So when they actually do make it to the camp, they are told by, what is the counselor's name? He's not even
it's
here.
Barbara. I know that's one.
No,
We have Mondo right there.
Oh, there he is. Yeah, Mondo. So Mondo's the one who ends up telling them. By the way, it's all in ice. They are snowed in. This is Colorado. They are snowed in. They get there and they're like, oh, who's here with us? And then he's like, oh, it's just you 3. Of course it's just those 3. It's just them. And
but that's the day Ex Machina was talking about, how they got there so quickly, and then they're like, oh, y'all were the last people who didn't, the message didn't get out in time, so now y'all are here. It's they're just trying to move the plot along.
Yeah, and make sure we keep it a tight, contained space where it's not a lot of people that's there. It's just them that are being actually haunted and whatnot. But obviously this is when we get introduced. So the guys are in one cabin, and Gwen's alone in hers, and you said in the theater, you're like, no, I'm not sleeping alone.
I don't
Especially
care.
because every night she's been sleepwalking
and having these horrible dreams and stuff too. I would be like, no, I don't have to sleep in the same bed as my brother or Ernesto, I guess a crush, but it's I'm gonna sleep with them. There's really only, because Mustang, which is the other camp counselor there, she cannot stay with her because she's not a registered guidance counselor, and because she's a minor too. Not Mustang, but obviously Gwen. So they can't stay in the same, which made, like I said, that it's kind of one of those things that's goofy. Okay, it's like, oh, let's just hurry up and get to the reason why she has to literally sleep alone.
Yeah.
So because of that, I would have just been like, I don't care, what are you gonna do? Kick me out? We're all stuck here. So it's I would have just been like, no, I'm gonna sleep in their dorm. I don't care what y'all are saying. I'm not about to be, especially because I know I'm having these horrible dreams, and now I'm at the place.
I don't know if that was Mustang who said it or if that was Hope. But either way,
well, Hope is the mom. Hope is the mom when she was younger.
Oh, that's right. My apologies. Yeah, so it was Mustang that was.
Yeah, because the only women that were there are literally Gwen, Mustang, and Barbara. Everyone else was a dude.
And then Barbara and Kenneth, they're in their own place, but they're a part of it too. They're the Christian family who they're like, this is all demon witchcraft
Demonic,
type stuff.
yeah.
But we'll get into just some of the better moments of the plot of what's going on. Very reminiscent of Nightmare on Elm Street because
Yeah.
of the grabber now being dead. He's haunting and attacking Gwen through her dreams because he ends up telling Finn about halfway through the movie, you know, like, I'm gonna take everything, you know, like you forced me, they're gaslighting, you forced me to kill, you made me
My
kill my
brother.
brother, and then you killed me, so I'm gonna you know, take what's important to you, make you suffer, make you hurt more than ever before. And so that's his, you know, motivation. And so because he was killed,
And Finn's fear is the one that's
and
fueling him
Finn's
too.
that is his biggest fear, is like not being able to protect his sister. You
No,
know?
I'm saying like
Oh.
Finn's fear of the grabber, like him still seeing those things, is what keeps him around.
Yeah, exactly. But also even more so, he's because Armando was telling him, Mondo was telling him, like, it's, you know, you're really afraid of not being able to protect your sister, and even the sister even calls it out too, like, oh, what are you can't even take care of me, can't even take care of yourself. Like,
Yeah.
there's quite a few moments that happen, but there are some pretty good moments that we did like in the film. Like we said, when we saw the trailer, we did see her, you know,
Spinning around
spinning
and blood.
around and being thrown around. But when she's being attacked, when Gwen's being attacked by the grabber, after the first couple of nights that she's in there, you know, when she first sees him, only she can see him. No one else can see him,
Yeah,
actually.
because she's in like the dream realm, pretty much, literally.
So when she's being attacked, it looks like she's attacking nothing to everybody else. Kind of reminiscent of like Invisible Man. So when so the first time when he's actually attacking her, it is a bit in the trailer when she's being, you know, held down by the axe or whatever. Yeah, I think like he has an axe in his hand, and then he's like throwing her up against the refrigerator in the mess hall, and then he proceeds to, you know, pick her up and damn near throw her inside the oven, which I was prepared to
trying
go,
to put her in there, yeah.
damn, you know, because he already burnt a kid. So
yeah.
I mean, he stabbed one kid, he burnt another, and then he axed another kid's face off, which,
Well, the other one, he broke their arm and axed off their arm and leg.
oh my god, like,
He
that's
was
just
gruesome
very
to
gruesome.
little kids.
Very gruesome. But I will say that those moments of the plot, the slower, more comedic moments of Ernesto, you know, and Finn and Gwen kind of like not chilling, but essentially like being these teenagers who are dealing with this stuff. Those fun moments between them that can break a bit of the tension, they do lead up to some of the more, not necessarily scary, but the gotcha and jumping out moments in the film, which I did like. I seemed like they built up. It wasn't like scare after scare after scare. It was like you can tell that her sleepwalking were the points in the film where it just kept kind of progressing the story. Like, they would do what they needed to do throughout the day and gain more people to understand what they were doing, reveal more information, and then every night you're a little bit trepidatious. You all right? You're trying to take, okay. And then every single night you're kind of a little bit trepidatious, wondering what's going to happen next. Is she going to get hurt more next? She's already been burnt in one dream. She's already been almost burnt by the grabber himself. So, you know, and then she keeps getting these reveals of what's happening with these kids. And then essentially halfway through the film, they then reveal who they are to Mondo, which, you know, he finds out like, oh, like you're Hope's kid. I forget what, Sunshine or whatever. Every kid's got a nickname. Starlight. Yeah, that's right, Starlight. He's like, oh, you're Starlight's kid, you know, referring to Hope, the mother. And then we find out that Mondo, the main, I'm gonna call him like the counselor, but he's like the main dude who runs the camp. We find out that he's really still there at this camp, running this camp, because he really can't rest. His soul can't even like really rest, even though he's alive. He can't really find peace within himself until he finds out where these three boys are. And so now he's realizing, oh, I'm close. I'm not gonna miss a chance to find that out, which I thought was pretty surprising, because I thought there was gonna be some twist of a bad person, but no, he's a genuine good person who wants to put some ease to these kids' families who for years now have been just wondering not only what happened to my child, but where are they? You know,
And probably blames him too.
Anyways, after they end up telling Mondo who they are and what they're really here at the camp for, and he ends up telling them that he just wants to, you know, find the boys, they all kind of set out to go into the go into the not the forest, but go into the ice to kind of like
onto the lake
to
because
the
she
lake
had, yeah.
because she had the vision because if the boys were floating up from the bottom, then they were clearly thrown into the bottom of the lake, and that's why they haven't been able to see them. And since they're in the frozen lake, they got to go out there, push the snow out the way so that they can figure out what it is. A lot of montages in this one. A lot of time passes by. It shows them as a group doing this, and then we kind of get into the third act where what's his name? Where Barbara and Kenneth jump in because they already were not messing with they weren't messing with Gwen because once they saw her floating up in the air by herself.
Well, Barbara already didn't like her because of her mouth, and
Exactly,
then she had slept with Ernesto in the room where they weren't supposed to be. And I'm just like, so you expect a young little girl to just be sleeping alone during snowstorms? It's not like it's quiet outside. Like there's literally snowstorms.
But yeah, but essentially we are given a little bit more history of the grabber from Mondo. He was like an ice skater, or he ice skated, and of course he was, like we said, he was one of the counselors at the actual camp itself. And like we said, he's just a weird dude who is already killing people. So we do get the reveal, as we just told you a little bit earlier, but we'll say it now, is that Gwen. It was so after she had already went through that vision where she's been burnt by one of the kids because they were trying to touch her arm, and she's already had another vision where she was attacked by the grabber back in the original basement.
Yeah,
and
they had all 3 kids murdered quickly. Those were her first visions.
Very quickly,
because that's before they even got to the camp. She had saw them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Besides the last one.
Besides the last one, we saw the third kids floating up to the ice, but then when she got to the camp, we saw his face.
Apart, yeah.
We saw his face get cut up halfway through the through a broken window, and that was really nice. That was probably one of the better moments of the film.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then of course and
but
she's
that's
great.
when she's at the camp.
Yeah, and that's when she's at the camp. I'm trying to remember. So at that part, the third. So
and then she just started having visions of her mom.
Yeah, started having visions of her mom because now they're taking shifts. Like Mustang, Finn, and Ernesto are taking shifts.
It's really just Ernesto and Finn.
Yeah, Mustang was kind of just chilling there.
Mustang had about a couple lines and said, "I'm gonna be here and be cute."
I'm be here. I'm gonna be around. But they take Finn and Ernesto. Really, it's just Ernesto taking the shifts. He tries to keep her at bay so she doesn't get up and actually sleepwalk it, and then the grabber ends up getting her arm with his axe, and then she starts bleeding in real life, so they start rapping at her like, "Oh my god, you gotta wake up." And I mean, that's pretty much half of the script is them saying, wake up, Gwen, wake up. And so then one of the first little boy, Cal, he ends up
I love how you call him Cal. His name was Felix.
Oh, that is Felix. My bad. I saw the other little kid. But Felix ends up opening the door for her from the other plane to actually save her there. But then because she's like, I guess, strapped down and she can't really like move physically, instead of the grabber like traumatizing her like in her actual own dreamscape, he takes her to a memory of what's happened to their mother, which is the reveal of the mom using her psychic supernatural powers to go all the way to where the grabber is, seeing one of the little boys in his basement. Once she finds out, then she's captured by the grabber, and then the grabber is actually like, oh, like, would you want to, he doesn't say anything, but he like points inside the van because he knows that Gwen is curious. That's the thing, she's curious about wanting to know. So she goes into the van, and then she ends up being driven all the way over to where it's revealed that the mother did not kill herself. She actually was killed by the grabber to make it look like she took her own life. And then the dad came in and he's asking, he's like, why? Like, what did I do? And so it was a pretty messed up moment to find out that reveal. So now we really do know the grabber has a very close connection to this family. He's been caused the trauma that they've gone to. Essentially, he's just run the block back on Finn. And then now he's like, all right, fine, I'll go after Gwen now to get back at Finn. Even though you already took the mom. I mean, how much more do you want to take from this family? You really do not like this family.
Well,
Probably
he
because
marked Finn, and that's
exactly. So we do get that. So we're kind of revealed in this film throughout the plot, throughout the movie itself, really by the beginning of the third act, that the Grabbers messed up this family since the beginning. So he's the catalyst for a lot of it. So just wanted to kind of give you guys a rundown of what we were figuring out throughout the movie, and I like that. I like that the Grabber isn't just he is a random dude, but not to this family. Like he is a sadistic person who takes out his anger onto
and
other
the reason
people.
why he killed the mom is because she was figuring it out. So
He had to prevent it. He wanted to keep doing what he wanted to do for whatever reason because he's an absolute psychopath. So we wanted to go ahead and tell you that. So that's more like the plot and the storyline of it. We'll get more into how everything wraps up later on, but just wanted to go over that. Any other thoughts you had on the plot and the storyline of the film?
Yeah, in terms of but that's why I said, guys, like the story isn't bad. It makes sense. It's just like I said, sometimes it's just too goofy, or it's too like, oh, like now Mondo's involved with the other counselors, and the fact of how they are trying to, they, like I said, they throw a lot at you quickly, which like I said is fine if you can keep up with it, but sometimes it's like, oh, like let's just go ahead and have Mondo on board. They need more help finding how are these three kids gonna find the body. So it's like sometimes it feels as though it's just kind of like filler in to like get to the next point, or it's like, oh, let's explain everything because we don't know where people are at and stuff, because I'm just thinking Gwen's counting down the days to literally when she dies. But in terms of the story too, with Finn, because Finn is kind of almost like a side character. This is mainly Gwen's story. But Finn, whenever he is listening to the phone call, he's also getting traumatized by the Grabber then.
Yeah.
But there was a big redirect I would have had, but
Okay.
it is what it is. But sometimes, like how you had said, sometimes the booth was over. Do you rap or do you tweet? The booth was kind of overused sometimes, with the shaking of the little boy. I feel like the boys were a good stamp within the entire plot and storyline, because hello, like this is how he started, like, and these are just the first three victims. It's like an easy way to do a sequel, just go back in time. But sometimes how much they showed the little boys was kind of also like, okay, I get it. Like they're dead, and they're not really, and they didn't help her until later on, I guess. So maybe for me it was too much of the little boys, like over and over, keep seeing them, and I'm just like, dang, like Gwen's just getting like hoed in the dreams.
Yeah.
So sometimes, like I said, it's like I don't mind the story and stuff, but I can understand like if they get criticism in regards to like trying to get to the next step and just having to like explain stuff, and then some of the effects were pretty bad on that phone booth scene when it was all three of them, and I said we could have cut it. We could have cut it then.
I did like how it was a grainy kind of like effect whenever we were in the dream world. I do like that versus just kind of having to guess. And I also like the
It's
transition.
what he did for Sinister.
Yeah, I also like the transition of when she was like waking back up. Like it would fade from grainy
go clear.
back to clear. And I do like that because we felt like, oh my God, we've been through this traumatic thing with her and now we're back, but we still feel the effects of what's going on. So plot and storyline, all right, good. You can definitely tell because of the montages and because some of the more quieter moments that the script was there for a sequel, but it didn't seem like this was something that was always on the radar of Blumhouse to do. Like, we can come back to Black Phone if we don't have much else succeeding, and that's what this kind of felt like.
I think they really did want to make one though, because of how successful the first one was. Like I said, because the first one was like you had no idea what to expect. Some people probably saw it just because of Ethan Hawke, maybe, and some people just wanted to see something spooky because, like I said, with the trailers at first, you had no idea what to expect. I had no clue at all. It's called Black Phone. There's this man in the mask. Like, you have no idea what's gonna happen. But like I said, it got such great ratings. They're like, oh shoot, let's just do another.
Yeah, and so you can kind of feel that in some of the smaller parts of the script here, especially because the first one was kept so in a contained space of Finn being kidnapped. This one, they're going from the school back to the house. Now they're at a camp, and then now they're snowed in at the camp, but they got to go from different cabins, and then you're in the so you can tell it's different. As I was telling you through the movie, bold takes. They definitely took bold swings with this watch, which I appreciate. If you're gonna do something different early in your sequels, even though this doesn't need another one after it, versus coming versus finishing this and being like, oh, we didn't try that. We could have tried that. At least you tried this. It's different because you don't know where it's going to go after the first one. So this is what they decided to do. But that's our thoughts on the plot and the story. Let's go ahead and get into the pacing. I spoke on some parts of it. I think this is where some of the weakest parts of the film kind of come in. There is like a not a musical sequence, but there are like it's like a musical cue of them driving through the store. Driving through the storm, the snowstorm, just to get there. And then right when you said it, you said in the theater, you're like, I can't see anything. And how do they even know where to go? They're like driving the cliff or something. And then that's what they literally said. They were like, we gotta stop.
He's like, I can't see anything.
I can't see anything. Then Finn has a Rocky moment, just gets out the car, follow me, I'll jog.
Okay,
I'll jog with it. Okay. But they did make Finn look strong. He wasn't weak here. Finn, he was trying to be a good brother, a good leader. And I did like the brother-sister dynamic that they had. It seemed natural. It didn't seem like they were forcing it because they were siblings. Or at least that's my opinion of it. But there were some pacing issues, like when they got to the camp and then slowing everything down. I guess we're so used to horror camp movies and shows that there's like multiple kids everywhere and they're doing games or something to where stuff's happening in the background. It's so empty at this camp because it's just them. So some scenes can feel very like, okay, we get it. You're talking about the grabber again. You're talking about what happened to you again. It's like, and you got to ask questions about this again. We kind of get it, but it's.
I just think they hoed some of the characters, like Finn and Gwen and even Terrence, whenever they had that scene where they were all talking about what they actually are going through. And she's like, you guys both just suppress it, in terms of her telling her dad, like, you just suppress mom, being suicidal or, obviously she's not suicidal, but literally just her, just that trauma of losing her. And then Finn, you're doing the same thing with the trauma that has happened to you. And so she just goes, I'm actually the one trying to, embrace it and trying to figure it out because I don't want to be cursed. Like, because she feels as though she's cursed. It's a lot. But in terms of that dynamic of that scene, I feel like, whenever Finn was getting upset and he's like, stop it. You can see him physically getting angry. It lasted too long to where it was like, this is kind of getting goofy. And then there wasn't really an explosion from him. Like, with it going so long, I expected a bigger explosion. Like, I said, stop. I'm,
okay.
Because he can do it. Finn, you can do it. Or Mason, you can do it. So that's why it's like, I just feel like it kind of lingered on too long. And then even Terrence standing there and then the longing shots of them all three. It's like, okay, we already know, we know exactly what happened to each of you, literally. So it's just like, okay, how about like I said, it just could have been more condensed or more like kind of like an explosion in terms of their emotions. It's like Terrence, you're just standing there in the snow watching your kids. I feel like Gwen was doing a really good job, like egging him on, getting him upset. But like I said, the explosion from Mason kind of made it seem like, we could have redone that scene. Like, it was just too long. It's just, like I said, like, it was just too long to where it's like, okay, like, this is, y'all are talking a really long time, like, and I feel like sometimes they would do that with those dynamics and stuff, and it's like, okay, like, even Finn and Gwen, when they were talking in the kitchen, that one wasn't nearly as long as the last one, but when Finn and Gwen were talking in the kitchen, whenever she's like, no, let's go, like, I feel like that was lasting too long, too. It's like, some of the shots were a little too longing, where it's like, I don't know, like you said, sometimes it was like, are we meeting a runtime? Because it's like that wasn't, especially with how good the first one was.
I could definitely agree. I also think the way it's shot is interesting. I feel like, not like you can have more shaky cam or something, but there were very longer static, like just this shots on them and they're talking.
Yeah.
Kind of reminded me a bit of some of the scenes in From. But at least in there, they do the zoom in, the slow zoom in. I feel like this could have used it because there was sometimes when they were talking, and I'm like, okay, nothing's kind of happening with the camera, so I feel like you're just kind of talking to me, but from a different angle, and that's all right. The scene that she's referring to is right in the third act, because the dad actually comes to the camp by the beginning of the third act.
Up telling him.
Yeah, because Finn ends up, because Finn lets them know.
Well, all of them were basically told to call their parents, I know they're okay, and and then he let his dad know, and then he's like, okay, I'm coming to get you, because and then Finn had actually told him too. He was like, yeah, we need to get out of here, like Gwen's in trouble.
Exactly.
Gwen's
and Finn
hurt.
was ready to run away and numb and try to forget this and push it down. And the father, as you said, already was not on board with the mother's, as he would say, like
with her visions. It drove her crazy.
Wasn't
because
truly believing it or hearing her. So, and he was already saying this against Gwen in the first one. even though she proved it in the first one to find those kids. But here, the scene was interesting enough, and we'll get more into it with the acting. But the pacing wise, there was some moments where the pacing was good. It needed to slow down, like when Mondo was telling his background, and they were all sitting there explaining themselves / planning for what to do next. But there were other times with the pacing where I thought this could be executed a little bit better. The best moments of the film are during Gwen's dream sequences. You know, those are the ones where it feels like you're being chased by the grabber. You're the one who's in trouble. Like you do feel that trepidation every single time they're going to sleep. But as I said before, it's a hard balance because it's a little bit, not to say boring, but it's a little bit like, oh, okay, that's all right. Like they're on the ice, and I don't know. It's some of those moments in the third act when they're on the ice and there's all of them out there.
Yeah.
It can just kind of seem, like you said, goofy, but also
like even the ice skating scene. Like you said, you had said like it didn't look too goofy,
It
but
looked
it's like
too goofy.
But it's like how far he was.
Yeah.
She's just standing there. Everyone's like not paying attention.
It's
But
kind
of
of there
course
for
she's
the
in the
aesthetic,
realm.
like
Yeah.
the visual effect of like, oh, he's coming after you, but also why does he have to be ice skating or whatever. But it pays off for some things, like Mondo when like I do like that with the when he was talking to. When he was
Him
talking
and the radio?
to Finn, yeah. Oh no, not
Oh.
the radio thing. No, that was when he threw the snowballs at the wall or at the window, and it made the face. That was okay. I meant when he hit the ice.
It was loud.
When he hit the
Yeah,
ice.
at the
Oh
same
yeah, when
time.
Gwen was on the phone and he was hitting the ice when Mondo already opened up a hole to try to find the kid, and then he was hitting the ice behind him, mirroring him, and then you think Mondo's about to die there. I like that. That's when I'm like, okay, you're building up to this. But like I said, pacing, it's on and off there. But I will say this, with some of the moments of the pacing, I didn't mind them finding more pockets to put the comedy in here because it makes us care about them. Like when she is lying in the bed with Ernesto, and they're just kind of like chilling there, and then I forget what he says, like you're beautiful, and then you hear Finn's like, what am I being? Am I beautiful? Like that got a good reaction out of our theater, and I feel like it's worthy because once again, we don't expect this in this type of film. I'm thinking it's gonna be trauma after trauma after trauma to these
even when
characters.
you're saying this, it's still like you see how guys, like, it can be perceived as a little goofy.
Yeah.
Because like we had just said, like whenever he was hitting it in the dream realm, but it was still affecting Mondo, and then this is why it's so heavily like Nightmare on Elm Street. So if you don't like Freddy movies, you're definitely, I feel like
You
people
won't
that
like
are
this type of film.
people that are fans of Freddy will appreciate this, but I feel like those, or maybe some people will just feel like this isn't as good as Freddy or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's just such a close, because Freddy, it was the same thing in one of, I don't remember which movie it was of Freddy's, but he literally would, like, if he hurt you, in the dream realm, it would be obviously your real life, but they were always dreaming because they would be asleep. But it's like sometimes, like I said, even with Mondo, who is someone who can't see him, he's not in the dream realm or anything. Whenever he is beating the ice trying to find the boy, and then obviously, like you had said, like, those are good tension when the grabber is hitting it too. But it's also kind of like, oh, like that's a little silly too, though, because it's like you were killed in the first one, so now we're doing this dream realm aspect, and like I said, it can either hit or miss. That's like kind of the whole thing that makes it's so funny, because for Gwen, it's so good, we're seeing things that, like, we normally wouldn't see. But with the grabber, it's kind of like, okay, dude, like Finn already had killed you, and it's like now you're now, like I said, that Deus Ex Machina scene of him coming all the way, this is where it started, this is where his first kills were, but he's kind of basically alive over here because literally
he came from hell, I guess. Because he was trying to tell Finn
like,
that, like, oh, because he says, like, they take the best parts of you or something.
Yeah, they take the best parts out of you to where you're not even human anymore.
So I guess I would like to, I didn't write the script here, but I'd like to say that it's interpreted as he has so much hatred for this family, and he's so hell bent on coming after Finn to avenge the fact that he took his own brother's life, and Finn then took his life, and he messed up his plans of continuing to come after these boys or these kids and whatnot, that he's like, even in the afterlife, I'm going to find a way to still torture and get after you. And it is because it's still lingering in Finn, because he still sees, because he's still scared and sees them. And even before they even get there, you know, there's moments with Gwen that I do like of them as siblings where she's like, it's okay, you can talk about it and whatnot, but he doesn't want to because he's just gonna numb it away. But you can understand why he's like that.
And yeah, and he's probably like,
He's a
even
teenager
if we,
as well.
I guess he's
He's a
also
teenager.
thinking like, even if I talk about it, it's not going to change anything.
It's not gonna change. Like what if I
Yeah.
do talk about it and then he shows up even more?
Yeah.
Or then like what if I talk about it and then it ends up affecting that person? You know, maybe that could be done. But once again, they are teenagers, so I like that. It's not like they're these grown adults who have been through all this other trauma. No, they're teens, so it's like they're gonna figure it out the way they need to. But pacing wise, that's kind of how we thought about it. Now we can get into the acting itself. I do think that Madeline McGraw, she did a damn good job here. I think she did really well, especially because we went into this not knowing it was her movie, but it's her movie. I'm just gonna say this: I really loved when she saw the window slice the kid's face, and she was just belting out. And it's good because she took a second to react. It's almost like the face hit the ground and then she's looking and then she belts out the scream. And I was like, that's a little bit more realistic. Of course, people, you know, some people, I was used to like the scream queen scream, but hers was more like this anguish in her of like, oh my God, I've seen this terrible
She's
thing.
terrified.
And I'm probably going to see this again and again and again if I don't take care of this. And then I really like how when Finn
Or am I
wakes her
always
up-
going to see people dying around
Exactly.
me? Like, that's...
And I feel for her when she says, you know, I'm crazy. I feel like I'm crazy. I feel like I'm going crazy. I feel like I'm like Mom. That's good, especially because we've seen the actual mother. So Madeline did a really good job. Hope to see you in more stuff because she carries a lot of the beats of the movie pretty well. And in terms of, we'll go back and forth. What'd you think of Madeline in the movie, considering we went into it?
Oh, no. You can keep talking about your, how you
Oh,
felt
the actors
acting.
in general? Yeah, so I'll go ahead and get Mason out the way. Obviously, he plays second fiddle in the film. But I also like that he came across as this badass who's not taking BS. You know, he's not going to be shriveled up in a corner anymore. He's gonna, you know,
That probably makes him, he's having that control aspect. Like, I'm back in control of my life because look at what that other
exactly
guy...
because I was pushed away. But also, as I was telling you in the car ride back, if you let the trauma that's happened to you consume you too much, you can become
Like
someone like the grabber who takes all that trauma and goes, I'm going to use it on other people
And hurt other people, which
and
is
hurt
what
other
he's
people, which he
doing.
already did in the beginning. That's the first thing we saw of Mason, was beating the crap out of somebody because of how they made him feel, trying to relive his trauma again and again. I think he did. I think he did fine here with some of the reactions to the phone calls, hearing the phone time and time again. You know, when he finally got mad at the phone, and then when he first heard his voice, he didn't get scared. He straight up told him, "I'm not scared of you." I like that, pushing back on him, but then being pulled back into reality of, but what if you can't save your sister? That's what's really scaring you here. I also liked his little scene that he had with his dad before he left, calling out like, "Oh, you're gonna drink?" You know, and like his dad kind of just telling him,
He's
like,
like,
"Oh,
please don't drink."
exactly, please. Oh, can you promise me one thing? Don't drink." You know, calling back to the dad's drinking problem, which is once again a domino effect of the offense that the grabber did. So I like that it builds up to what they're doing. And Mason did a good job. You know, he's even little things like when he was laying on the couch. Because I think in the first movie, was he like? I think he was more like scared of his dad, or yeah, he was. It's different now. Like he was laying on the couch chilling, and his dad was like, "All right, good night."
Because he's like,
good night,
try
son."
me.
Yeah,
Like,
he's like, yeah.
try me.
He's like messing. He's like
Okay,
messing.
Harry.
I ain't gonna play with you,
Harry.
You know. And then of course the dad's pretending like he doesn't know that. You know, he's been smoking, but then it's called out later. And then I will call to the scene. I think Mason did a pretty great job in that scene. In that scene when they're all in the snow. When he finally, like when she is pushing him and he finally says like, I was scared. Like I was terrified. Like it reminded me like, wow, you were just a kid. And like no one, and for him to say like, y'all don't, like, you don't know what that's like no one knows what that's like, because truly no one alive knows what that's like. Yes, Gwen, you're going through these dream sequences, but I
was with the man.
I was with the actual man himself, and no one. And since he's dead, no one else is going through this. So I can't talk to anyone about this, but I do like that. I do like that moment that he had. But you were right when when he was.
It was too much of a build up for.
Yeah,
Not
he
enough.
should have screamed back a little bit more, or it feels like something else. The scene could have been executed a different way for his blow up. It felt like it kind of reached the peak when he was saying that he was terrified, but it didn't reach that like okay, like I am scared or something, and then like the sound cuts out and you just get maybe like the snow in the background. I feel like it could have been done differently to where we have a moment to breathe, like okay, we really and of course when he said I don't want to be afraid anymore, I do like that because he doesn't want to feel angry anymore inside because
Just like she doesn't want to feel crazy, he doesn't want
Exactly.
to feel scared.
so I like that. It was pretty good. Jeremy Davies. Jeremy Davies is talented. Was fine. He really is in the background. He just shows up when he needs to. He's fine. But Miguel Mora as Ernesto, really good addition. Really good addition here. I liked him. He was funny when he needed to be. He hit his beats when he needed to be, and he
was on timing.
He was on
ready.
timing
He was
because when
ready.
she was lifted up to go in that oven, everybody else was frozen. He said, "Come on, help me." I like that. He had
Help!
some good.
Help me.
He had some good reactions to it. And I like how he wasn't like beefing with Finn or anything. It wasn't like, oh, you're the brothers or whatever. No, he didn't even make fun of him. He liked how they were. So I did like it. I liked how they were, and shout out to Simon Webster, our little the little boy from he's from. So he's here too. I think a lot of people did a good job. And Mondo, he was good too. He's kind of like that surrogate like uncle, kind of like to Finn. Someone he was saying the things to Finn that his dad should have been saying to him. I noticed like he was challenging him in the way his dad could have challenged him, but his dad wouldn't because he's like I still don't want to deal with this in my own way. So I do think that the acting overall was still fine for what it was, but it was Madeline McGraw that did do it. Like Ethan Hawke as the grabber. Not gonna lie, he was weaker in here than he was in the first, but he already is.
Well, he's dead.
He is dead. He is. He was okay in here. He
wasn't really even like a huge like. Honestly, like obviously he was a huge factor, obviously because he's the grabber, but it's like we didn't. The first one was so like he was stuck with them, so we saw him all throughout it. So I feel like in this one he was like second fiddle too. Like him and Finn got about like the same amount of runtime.
Yeah,
I think. I could be wrong.
He had some lines, but I think since we didn't see him as menacing as he was up the stairs, just sitting in the chair with the mask on, just waiting for Finn to try to escape and stuff. He wasn't as menacing. Yeah, looking nuts, but he was still fine in here. So that's my thoughts on the acting. Still pretty good in here, and we did get some laughs out of. If I'm saying your name wrong, I'm sorry, but Maeve Betty as Barbara, she was also funny in here too. She had some of the more little
Maeve Beatty?
Beatty, yeah, my bad. What'd I say?
You said like Bart, like I don't
know.
I'm sorry,
I mixed her character's name and her actual actress.
With like Birdie, I think you said Birdie or something.
Yeah, but yeah, Maeve Beatty. If I said your name right, hopefully I got that right. But I thought she was funny. She had a couple of laughs out of me. But what'd you think of the acting? Tell me your thoughts in terms of how people.
Well, it's basically that's why I wanted you to go because pretty much I feel the exact same way about all of them. Grabber, I did like the effects of like his face and stuff. Toward like when his mask is actually coming off because it does make sense. It is also kind of strange too though because it's like in Nightmare on Elm Street with Freddy, whenever he gets hurt in the dream. He's okay because most of the time like he'll let you go. He doesn't hold that power over you anymore. Mm-hmm. But with the grabber, I feel as though he was getting hurt later on, obviously he was getting hurt, and I feel like most of the times he just healed himself because remember like after when they were in the kitchen, obviously none of them fought him. It was just like Mason kicked him one time, he was okay. And then the next time he comes, he's like all frozen and like his face looks decrepit and stuff. So I'm wondering where that comes from because whenever you first were in the kitchen with her, your face was completely fine. But now, were you just waiting in the ice?
No, and I mean, we assume hell is an icy cold place, and that's where he comes.
I guess he said, you know what's hotter than fire? Like ice, because ice burns you.
Yeah, or maybe because he himself is icy because I don't know. It's like his soul is almost, or his soul is almost still reminiscent of the boys frozen in ice at the bottom of the lake. Like he's going to be cold because it's such a cold place up there. But that could be reaching a little bit too deep there.
Yeah.
But it's fine. I mean, he was fine, but visually, still a nice movie. Some nice, good visual moments here.
The thing I was gonna say about the last thing I was gonna say about the grabber was, this is once again, it can be seen as goofy. I thought it was cool though, but like when they tag team at the end, the sister and brother, Finn and Gwen, so they all understand, like, we can't see him, but she can whenever she falls asleep. That's why they try to keep her awake. We don't want you to get hurt, because anytime you're in that dream realm, you're holding yourself captive. But ultimately, they both realize, like, we can't give him that. Pretty much after the whole little hoorah with their dad, they're like, we can't be scared anymore. We can't, like, what are we gonna do? We're gonna leave, and then what? More kids are, like, you're just gonna be traumatized. You're gonna try to push it away. Like, I'll feel like I'm going crazy because these boys probably won't let me rest. It's gonna be.
And you got to fight back. That was another theme of the film that Finn instilled in his sister. That's why she was able to fight back, like take over in the dream. Well, this is my dream. I can do what I want, and I have power.
And so she did get some powers, and then like the whole goal is for them to find the 3 bodies so that they can lay them to rest, so that their souls can be free, so that he doesn't possess any more power.
Yep.
So that's why I said, you see how what I just said, like I said, it's kind of long-winded, but like I said, it works for, like I said, a sequel. It is a lot, like I said, thrown at you though, like I said at the beginning. But ultimately the whole tag team at the end, whenever, finally Gwen's, in the dream, and pretty much little boy is helping, because they're helping her now.
Because she goes to sleep on purpose.
Which I guess they just shoot up, or actually no, she kicked them up. Whenever she goes, whenever she did go down, but just the fight at the end, Finn can't see him, but obviously he took Finn from, I always want to say they're reindeer sleigh, but they're little like they're little like wagon,
the
like
reindeer sleigh's funny
because they're on ice. Like it just looked like, I don't know,
a whole horse too, like a whole horse in carriages actually.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like there was just some random stuff that was. As we said, bold swings.
But he took him, and then, because he's probably like, I can't mess with your sister, but I'll take Finn.
Yeah.
I can still torment him. But then, ultimately, Finn goes, nah, Well, actually, the daughter, Gwen actually has to, obviously, help him a little bit. But like I said, she's taking her power back in the dream, she's fighting back. And then Finn, he finally sees where he's at, because he can still, because like I said, because they both can see, because they both basically can feel him, like, because they both have that trauma related to him.
He can, like, sense his presence a lot more.
Yeah.
But he definitely, like, he still couldn't see him, because when he saw his leg, he was like, you could tell he was like reaching up his back to get to his,
so that he gets to his head.
Oh, and by the way, so when they already found the first boy, but the 2 other boys were in like barrels. They were like stuffed in barrels at the bottom. And then when Mondo goes down, oh no, it wasn't Mondo. It was the dad. The dad actually went into the ice to go get the barrel, and then through her dream, Gwen's already down there, moving the boys up, because they know once they get them, they're able to get them. So then when Terrence brings it up, when the grabber is skating around, which can still look goofy from when you can't see it, because you can see the ice marks on the ground, and then you can hear it.
And we're in the Polar Express.
Exactly. But when in the Polar Express, but when he's on the ice and he's trying to attack Finn and them again, the boys, like skeletons, grab at the grabber one by one, the other 2 of them.
They're jumping
and then,
out.
And then they're able to get him. Which I assume they're because you said it earlier. You like, you said earlier, like they're strong enough to do that now versus earlier, or like they're doing more later on. And I feel like they're probably stronger because their actual bodies are there versus like before when they're farther away.
Yeah.
It could be something like that. Like he is right above their bodies, so their bodies probably like, hey, we're still gonna this is our chance to get him now more than ever.
Yeah.
But then they do mess him up. If there's one thing I do appreciate about a good sequel of an original horror film, it's when you have the main characters like really mess up they don't get lucky. They actually mess him up, the grabber himself. Cut off his leg, really like that, and then Finn, reaches up to the back of his head. He just smashes his face into the ice multiple times, probably 10 or 11 times. I really do like that because, and then he tells him like, I'm not afraid of you, or he says it again, and I really do like that. And then they end up. Then he drags him into the ice, and then she kicks his his ankle and leg into there, and then he is now at
And
the
his
bottom of the
mask,
ice. And his
yeah.
mask. He's now at the he grabs his mask on the way there, on the way inside. He grabs it and puts it back on, and then he's floats to the bottom of the ice, and then he's
With the three boys.
with
Or
the three boys
yeah.
do drag him down. Yeah, that's right. The three boys drag him down, and then he floats to the. He sinks to the bottom, which is very funny because we just watched one of the Dead Meats on Jason, and Jason that's one of the Jason movie
Yeah.
endings. So it is like it takes elements from Freddy Krueger, and then the ending of how he goes is reminiscent of a Jason movie, just floating and being just frozen there.
Yeah.
But it was fine. It was it was still fine for what it is. It just had some goofy
Longing
moments,
shots
yeah.
and-
But
yeah.
but there were some moments
it's
in
just
there that
him
were
not
worthy.
being able to be seen. It's like almost as though you kind of want it to just be in her perspective so
Yeah.
that we can actually see him. It doesn't look as goofy. It can be more scary, but once you give them their power, then it's like, okay, but like Finn, going hard on him at the end, it's like, okay, well, we see it from her perspective and we see the gore, his face coming off, and
But we don't need to see him
Mason,
not
yeah,
smashing
hitting.
anything into the glass.
Well, it's like,
Or,
well, it does show it. That's the thing. It's like, because it gives us those vibrations, and like it shows that he's feeling something and he's pushing, and like we can actually it's almost like Invisible Man. Like you can see the outline of it once he holds him, but it's like we don't need to see that because now it looks. And even in the theater, I said, ooh, this is when it's starting to look a little goofy.
Yeah, we just
Like-
didn't see it from hers, but like we said, bold swings that they tried to take with it, but still fine acting all around. And the high points of the film. Let's go ahead and give the rating, and then we'll give why we wanted to give it the rating that it gets. So, go ahead, Chris, take it away.
The rating for it is
an A. We still gave it an A, which does match the original, which means that Blumhouse has 2 A movies.
The first one is better, but of course
The
it'll
first one
be
is better, but they make up for this made up for Women in the Yard, and this made up for Drop. Drop was a Blumhouse movie.
yeah.
Yeah, this made up for Drop as well. So it did make up for those two. So I'll give it the main reason why I wanted to give it an A, why we really wanted to give it an A, is because we were pleasantly surprised
Yeah.
by having a genuine connection to these characters. We've said it many times on this channel before. We'll keep saying. In fact, this is a big reason why we gave him the D that it gave. And thanks to everybody who's given their opinions on that on the TikTok, because my oh my, you guys do not mess with that opinion. Some of you do, but y'all keep interacting with that, so I'll take it. But we didn't like that we couldn't care too much about Cade's family there. We got the complete opposite here. Like by the end of this movie, I'm
So
going,
he's throwing shade for HIM. We like Tyreek.
wow. No, y'all like Tyreek. I mean, hey, Tyreek's still cool. But anyway, it gets an A. Oh man,
That's always what I'll remember him
funny.
as.
That's so funny.
Like, That's all I'm gonna think of.
Oh man, but genuinely caring about these characters, seeing what Finn went through in the first one, seeing his reactions of it, and then also keeping the script tight enough to where things that have happened in the first act matter later. Because at first, when he's just smoking, you think it's just it's a teen thing at that time, especially in the 80s. Like, you're experimenting and you're getting into the drug stuff and whatever. You just want to take an ease off, but it matters later in the big family sequence when she is calling back to it, saying you're just numbing yourself, acting like you don't smell it, Dad. I like that because it rewards you for paying attention to things earlier in the film, which are consequences of what's happened in the film previous. It's good. Like by this point we know the family and we give a damn about them, at least. Even that small thing like the dad saying he's been sober now for 3 years. He's been sober since the events of it. But I do like that. He doesn't just go back to it. So it is nice there. I do like it. And that's why it gets an A. If it didn't have much of those things, it would be just passing. But since it did, now I walk away from these movies going, well, I know who Finn is. Like, I know who Gwen is. Like, I know what they went through. And that's some pretty traumatic stuff. And also, let's just keep it a buck, y'all. Them kids getting messed up in the film, it was brutal. It was, but when Felix got stabbed in the jacket, we were like, showed the guts and
You'll
stuff. I was
float
like,
too.
whoa.
We'll all float too.
I said, whoa. I was like, that's really brutal. So it had some really nice moments in there. But go ahead, you. What was your reasoning for giving it an A for amazing?
Yeah, it's because like I was like about to like, cause at first I was like, oh, I'm between like an A and a C, cause for me I was like, damn, is it a B? You know, cause ultimately I'm like I said, the goofiness of it and like how, like I said, it just took a lot of inspiration. You can tell it was the same man who did Sinister with the grainy effect. You can tell he got inspiration from Nightmare on Elm Street. But I did actually enjoy the fact how they tied in everything, because that's so hard to do in a sequel. And it's like, where are you gonna go with this? Because already I was like, I didn't support this. I was like, oh, don't have another one because the first one was so phenomenal. Don't do that. Like, it was a perfect one-off of a film. And I was just worried about the second one. I'm happy they didn't go. And I also was appreciative that they didn't go super into the religion and like demonic aspect. It was just kind of like, you know, like little funny, like laughing cues almost. But I did appreciate, like I said, the overall story of it. Like I said, there were parts that were a little goofy, but I can look past it because I do enjoy Freddy and stuff. Those type of aspects he was taking stuff from, but it was, and plus it was an enjoyable watch. I was like, would I watch this again? Yes. Would I recommend it to people? Sure. Like, so I was like, I wouldn't give it a C because I was like, there's other things we've given a C, and I'm like, yeah, you passed, but I'm like, this is more than passing.
Like this, like if you haven't seen them, you'd be rewarded for watching them back to back during the Halloween time, because you'd be like, all right, that's pretty good.
But yeah, I do. Like I said, I gave it an A for amazing. Like I said,
and the goofiness.
and Madeline was, like I said, she did phenomenal with like the screaming and like I said, you did kill kids. So I was just like, wow. And I also appreciate how they did it with the first one too. Like, well, granted, with the first one, it was kind of over time because he was learning different ways of how to escape. But it's like with hers, it was like, oh, show the 3 kids that are already going to be gone. We'll know exactly what happened to them quickly.
That's a good point. I like that.
Yeah,
the
they did
first
that
one,
quickly.
The beats were him trying to figure out different ways to escape, and this one, the beats were these dream sequences of how these kids were actually,
being killed,
being killed and taken out, which we did see in the first one, like how they were kidnapped. But I think
we didn't really see them.
We didn't see them. We just saw that they were done. And then also, speaking of the first one, like you said, the goofiness, and I said this in the car ride back. If there's one thing that Scott Derrickson, right? Scott Derrickson? Yeah, Scott Derrickson. If there's one thing Scott Derrickson knows, he knows how to balance a bit of the goofiness, because in that first one, the moment you can definitely see as goofy is when he has to go back, lean forward.
I didn't think that was goofy.
I'm just sorry, but like you could see that because I mean, I get it. He's practicing to hit, and he's a kid practicing to like fight, but looking back, it can be viewed as a bit, funny in the moment because he's just doing it there, and then you're waiting for him to do it again, but he is practicing. But here there are some more. There's more room for comedy in a horror to take the edge off, so you're not constantly.
And it's such a big difference because remember in the first one he was scared to fight, and that's why Ernesto's little brother, the one who like even taught him how to fight, the last one who didn't make it before Finn got captured. Remember in that one, he was like, I got to show you how to fight, man. You can't because remember he's getting beat up and he couldn't even really protect his sister. And then this one, that's all it is. So it's like, that's why it gets an A, because I'm like, you tied it so well to the first one and how different Finn is now. And even how Gwen has grown up too. Like they're both so different now because he was so scared in the first one. He was timid. He didn't really know how to protect his sister. And now it's like, that's his main goal, his main mission. He'll beat up anybody because he's already taken out literally a serial killer.
So still rewarding, still pretty good. I liked it. I definitely would watch it again. And I would suggest that if you haven't seen some, a horror movie ended sequel, these are pretty good. They're both under 2 hours long. So even though this one does feel a little bit
longer because of those longing shots.
Yeah, because of the longing shots. But overall, still worthy. Looks pretty good. The acting was good. And for Blumhouse, you can tell that this is where they put a lot of their money of what they have to promote a movie into. And Megan, too. Megan, they know what to do. It's funny. Blumhouse knows we got Megan and we have Black Phone. Like, if we need to make sequels to make some money off those, this is how we're going to do it.
Let's not do it again.
And they take big swings with their sequels, for sure.
Honorable mention to Gwen's filthy mouth.
Yeah, she was talking some. I did like that. She was talking some mess. She was not playing around. And I like that the families, like the dad's kind of timid and recovering, and the kids are like, we don't give an F anymore. 'Cause
Yeah.
we've been through some BS.
They
you know,
really be taking care of the dad. They're just like, okay,
they
dad, like
are
you're
taking care
in
of
the
the dad.
back. You don't know what's going on.
Exactly. But yeah, any other thoughts left?
No, like I said, Gwen, Mason, we already see you in a lot of other things.
Yeah, Mason, he's on his way,
you've
man.
grown so
He's on his
much.
way. He's on his way. He's growing fast, and it's amazing how he's doing as an actor. You know, glad we got to see you do many different things. Incoming, How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah, guys, watch Incoming. It's
Watch
funny.
Incoming. Sleeper on Netflix. Hopefully it's on Netflix. Probably
It is.
probably
It
on it.
is.
Oh, it is.
It's
I
a
thought it'd
Netflix original.
Oh,
Don't
okay,
worry.
good.
Once it hits like a number, it's gonna be leaving soon in a month.
But yeah, but still enjoyable. We really liked it. As always, you guys let us know your thoughts on the TikTok when you see the report card. You know, if you came here from it, appreciate you guys, and let us know what you want to see next, because we got quite a few horror movies coming up. It's been a really big year for
And
horror. It's
let
gonna be
us
an even
know-
bigger one for next year.
And let us know if you thought it was like a better, like it was more of a great psychological sequel, or did you feel like it was a little too cheesy and goofy
Yeah.
for you to where you were like, I can't.
Absolutely.
I don't like it.
And because it's looking like it's just going to be two movies. I guess it's a question of I'll try to think of these going forward, like a question we can ask that are rewarding for people who make it this far. But if you can compare these two movies to an original and a sequel, what would you compare it to? You know, let us know your thoughts on, in terms of the horror genre, just the first and second movie. It can be a whole franchise, like it could be Scream 1 and 2, Saw 1 and 2, Paranormal Activity 1 and 2. How does this stack up to the first two movies in other horror franchises? Because it's very rare that the first movie and the second movie would get an A from us.
Yeah.
But anyway, and as we said before, this should be it. Don't make a third one. We don't need to make a third one. We're good. Don't need to revisit this anymore. But anyways, seems pretty good. As always, that's been our thoughts on the report card over The Black Phone 2. Appreciate you guys for making it this far. If you guys want to see any more content, catch up with us more, always make sure to
Like, comment, and subscribe.
It's been Zay and Chris with the report card, and we will see you guys next time.